with all this.
Same old, same old. Well, crazy.
Okay. I think I'm doing everything right. I'm just gonna.
All good?
Just hold your breath.
You got welding time to do it? Things like that.
If you wanted to build a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
right. You still doing the welding out there?
I'll be honest with you, Ted, I'm not gonna be able to do anything for a couple of weeks, anyway.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I'm still trying to, I've been working on all that, so
You get your own stuff back there.
I'm trying. There's thousands and thousands of dollars, I'll tell you, it's really, I only worked 15 days or so, that's only working. Between the weather, get hurt, and go down, that's enough to drive me nuts.
Don't think they even knew you got hurt.
That's why you don't read mechanical stores.
What's that?
That's because you don't read mechanical stores.
Were they published?
I'm sending to you every month.
I don't think that's good.
Yes, you should, Jim, so you're not supposed to spam.
So that's them showing up staying.
You really? That's what's happening with a lot of people, because there's multiple names, so a lot of times it'll go to spam on somebody's, if they.
Oh, somebody else, ends up throwing up on somebody else's stamp. It's still on.
No, it's just that, no, some of the people get it on storage, so I don't know why you have it in storage.
Never got one.
Oh my God, and they send them out for 3 years.
The only thing I've ever seen is that you put up on the board, you both can't do it.
No, I don't put the camping stores on the website. I don't feel that's a hook, and someone wanting to, you know, meet some of the criteria, but,
Or do it as it's on.
but I'm going to home and look, to find out why you're in the, yeah. I'm gonna want to-
David made it pretty straightforward.
Yeah, those are good directions.
Yeah.
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 You used to have, yeah, I used to have a phone that was trying to get going with the broadband.
Oh,
And
Yeah,
yeah,
so
there were a couple times I couldn't get it working,
that, it just hasn't.
because I skipped the order or something, you know.
Considering how the rest of it is gone,
I got 3 this.
I'm gonna take this as a win.
Sounds like you did.
Everything did exactly what we had there, so I'm assuming.
And nothing came off of that.
We're good, yeah.
Yeah, I was playing last weekend,
So we'll know when we see ourselves on that screen?
No, David had me close it for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know why.
What a piece of work he is.
He
Good character.
indicated that having that screen up instead of ourselves.
One of the old hippies that came back.
It's the thing to do.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So, but it's recording, it's hearing our voices. You know,
He had information that he brought back from overseas, so he just recently, in a few years, he was in Vietnam now.
at least I hope the audio is working for your sake.
I don't,
You know,
we could do it without it, maybe.
it didn't weigh half a pound.
I haven't had to try that yet.
He got that for the camping, him and Greg, and I played for a while.
You ready to work on music?
Great. Yeah, that was great.
although David did send a very comprehensive
No, I
administrative
don't
report,
know.
so.
Find out. Will,
Oh, sure.
Will be,
yeah.
So what, did he go up north, today?
I presume so, yeah.
Yes, she come back to you to say, we can't deliver this.
No.
Yeah, they had killer weather, you know?
The
Yeah.
only time I get anything back is if somebody's on call. And I haven't got that from them. So,
I'll send you an email.
How we doing, Kurt?
I'll ask you to send me.
My friend, how are you?
Good.
yeah, well,
I'm a great mood.
Boy, I guess that clock is going on. Pretty cool. Perfect. All right, welcome everyone to the Lincolnville Select Board meeting. It is April 8th, hot off the heels of a solar eclipse. Before we get going, Steve, would you care to read the quote of the evening?
Certainly, with most men, unbelief in one thing springs from blind belief in another. George Lichtenberg.
Thank you. And I'd like to open the podium for any non-agenda items. Seeing no one rushing up to the podium, I'm just noting that David has the evening off, in case you're wondering where that sort of effervescent, charming personality glow is lacking in that corner of the room, as well as Robin. So we're unbalanced here. David did provide us with a rather comprehensive administrator's report. So just a reminder that nomination papers are available for elected offices, Select Board, School Committee, 5-Town CSD Board, Budget Committee, and the submission deadline is 4:30 p.m. this Friday. That is the 12th. Road posted weight limits are being lifted. Several roads, primarily in the northern end of town, are still posted, including but not limited to Joy Road, Townhouse Road, North Chester Dean, Stan Silly, Albert Blood Road, North Cobbtown Road, Van Cycle Road. Restrictions on remaining roads will be lifted as conditions allow. Storm damage repair work at the beach scheduled to commence this week. MDOT representatives for the parking project will remotely join the select board meeting on the 22nd. Public hearing regarding the possible extension of the Town of Lincolnville major non-residential development project moratorium ordinance will be conducted as part of the April 22nd select board meeting. The time of the hearing is 6:30. I want to send a special thanks out to the Lincolnville Fire Department for their work removing trees and marking potential hazards during this past storm. The incline down at the harbor, the eastern incline is in the summer position, and work continues on the repairs and replacement of the storm damaged incline connections. In-person recovery scope meeting held with FEMA regarding the December storm damage was held. Preliminary damage inventory was submitted. Follow-up meeting was postponed because of the Thursday storm. Been assisting Maine DOT Region 2 traffic engineer with Route 1 locations for the dynamic speed feedback signs, the radar speed signs. The units will be installed this spring and then maintained by the DOT. Notice of award for the Calderwood Lane reconstruction has been issued and work should commence by the end of the month. And coordinating ballot matters for June voting with election systems and software, 5-Town CSD, and the central school, as well as the town meeting warrant with the town attorney. Whew. If you have any questions, keep them to yourself until you can ask David. So moving along to meetings and announcements, all meetings will be held at the town office unless otherwise indicated. The Heart and Soul team will meet Tuesday the 9th at noon at the library. The Budget Committee will meet Tuesday the 9th at 6 p.m. The Planning Board will meet Wednesday the 10th at 7 p.m. The Conservation Commission will meet Thursday the 11th at 4 p.m. Patriots Day, that's Monday the 15th, the town office will be closed. Comprehensive Plan Review Committee will meet Wednesday the 17th at 6:30. The Budget Committee will meet Thursday the 18th at 6 p.m. and the Select Board will meet again on Monday, the 22nd at 6 p.m. Did I miss any? All right, seeing none, let's move along to upcoming community events. Anyone wish to share a community event? Not seeing anything. We have the meeting minutes from March 25th.
I move the board approve the March 25th, 2024 meeting minutes as presented.
So moved?
Second, except I got a correction.
Yes, I have correction.
Yeah, and I think it's the same, you weren't here, were you?
No,
But we heard this adjournment from.
yeah, line 146, I did not move to adjourn.
Wasn't you?
I don't know what state I was in that day, but
No,
I wasn't here because it was.
Yes, I believe it was Kern and Mike.
I can ask Steve.
It was.
Things were wrapping up rather quickly, but. So would you care to amend your motion?
I would amend my motion to reflect the suggested changes.
And I'll second the amended motion.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And we have some correspondence from some citizens regarding a Route 1 Citizens Planning Committee. Would you care to come up and address the board?
Sure.
And sorry, Chris, we can't accept documents at the time of the meeting. That's why we have our packets put together the previous week. But if you leave them with Melissa, then we'll get them and then they'll get into next week. If it's something different than what we already
No, I was just trying to make sure you got what we were trying to get.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, the original packet that you're talking. Yep,
It's all in there.
yep, yeah, thank you for that, yep. All right, gentlemen, you have the floor. Welcome. Thank you for being attendees.
Will Brown.
Thanks for having us. So,
Chris Osgood.
yeah, Chris Osgood and Will Brown. It seems that now is a good time to take a look at the speed limits through duck trap again, because it would be wonderful if we could line up for one of those special signs there also. The speed limit signs in duck trap were taken down. Then again, they were never set up where we agreed with the DOT to set them up after the bridge was reconstructed. When the town agreed with the DOT over the new bridge construction, the idea was that the speed limit through duck trap was going to be 35 miles an hour. And that was due to the concern that with the elevation of the bridge coming up considerably, that traffic would go through there faster. And they agreed on it, but then at the last minute, they put up a sign just on either side of the duck trap bridge, which were basically fairly useless. But we'd like to at least get those back. I don't think that they notified anybody why they were taking them down. But that's one of the things that we'd like to start working on.
Yeah, and then the other thing is at the other end of town, on the south end of the beach, or west end of the beach, let's say, for a long period of time, there had been a speed limit sign approaching 35 miles an hour that was up in front of Don Treat's, Hulbert's residence, with picket fences along the side of the highway. And then that disappeared some years ago, a few years ago. And last fall, I'm not sure how the sourcing was on it, but a sign was put back up approaching at 35 miles an hour ahead speed limit, and it was very nicely pushed back further out of the beach, up in front of where the family physicians complex is there. So that was a gain in the sense of letting traffic know a little bit sooner that there was a village coming up and it was time to slow down. But I'm not sure that they did anything with the actual speed limit sign location that would be in closer to the beach. I don't think they have. And that would be something we have to talk to them about to see if they correspond on whatever that distance was. There may be a line of sight issue coming over the hill before you get into the flat spot before Shagrock Road. But it might be worth a conversation. at least to talk with the main DOT if they have any intention of moving that actual speed limit sign a little bit further to the west also, to give a little more credence to the village that you're approaching there. That's me for a moment.
We would like, if it's possible, to kind of go back to where the old former Route 1 Advisory Committee was. The idea of having a scenic highway, I think, was a very good idea. It kind of got mixed up in some disagreements, but it fills in a missing piece that we were asked to do by former Commissioner John Melrose, and that was to do a scenic byway, and he asked to do 3 or 4 things that in exchange for that, he was going to build the majority of the project for us. And the last thing we couldn't get done was the scenic highway. The scenic byway didn't work because it has a lot of restrictions on property owners, where the scenic highway doesn't, and I think that's one of the good things that happened. At the last meeting where the former committee was in front of you guys, that the DOT confirmed that was okay, but that'd be a nice thing to have happen. And we'd basically just like to tick off from there and see what any of the past agreements that we had with the DOT that we can work through again, and see if there's any avenue there. I don't know that you guys are aware, but the amount of work that the town of Lincolnville did at the request of the DOT was extraordinary. It was just amazing how much work there was, and we got a lot of, one of the reasons we did it is because we got a lot of verbal agreements that if you do this work, we're going to help you out with the project. And when we were last here, those many years ago, we weren't in here squabbling about the design, which is pretty unique. Usually towns with the DOT are squabbling over the design they're going to do. Well, ours was all approved. It was just a disagreement over who's going to pay the 20%. Like I said, we had an agreement with former Commissioner John Melrose that we do X, Y, and Z, and they were going to pick that up. And not to bring up a touchy subject, but one of the reasons the Gateway Action Plan was and is beneficial to the town of Lincolnville. It describes work in kind, and that work in kind was something that the DOT end working on the Gateway Plan came up with, and that means you do X, Y, and Z. And you can get some of your 20% match. And the reason the DOT brought that in because it was a way to try to help the smaller towns, because there were, 21 towns in the long-range land use transportation plan. Smaller towns are always at a disadvantage because when it comes to doing some of these things, they can't come up with that 20%. Where Rockland and Brunswick and Camden and the other towns can make that match and they can get these projects done. So they came up with this idea of working kind where you do these things and you get some or all your 20% match covered. And one of the reasons it was really easy for Lincolnville at that time to go along with that planning is because everything that they were going to ask these towns to do for the match, we'd already done. And we'd already completed all these things, which was
Access management.
Access management was a strict request. They encouraged us to do site plan review, which we did. And then there was a scenic highway, and then they asked us to put on a positive face towards the DOT, because the DOT was traditionally struggling with towns. Really had a hard time working with the public. That's one of the things that Gateway was supposed to help work was the difficulty the DOT had with working with the towns. So that's pretty much it in this area.
Well, the only other thing is despite all the serious potential catastrophic things that are happening around us, like the situation down at the beach with tides and climate change and bridges in Baltimore going down and everything like that relates to infrastructure kinds of dollars on the federal level. some of that's federal for the beach, I suppose, the ferry landing, that kind of thing. But the general gist of that quarter-mile stretch of Lincolnville Beach, any of us can look at that and say, what the heck can we do here about this? There are now federal infrastructure funds that are available, and some of those things may be applicable to our needs just in terms of the other two sections of Route 1 that didn't get completed when the whole project started. The beach was the 1/3 that did get completed, but west of the beach and then east of Carver Lane, those are two projects that are all part of the same larger project, but the only reason they're not done was because Maine DOT said back then, we've run out of dollars, we've got to stop here at the beach. When the dollars are there, we'll come back and deal with the other two. So our encouragement is to try to see where Maine DOT is now in terms of, is there any way we can start talking about you coming back, knowing full well it's not going to happen right off the bat, but to keep the conversation alive, to bring it back to life, let me say, because I think it's been dead on the shelf now for some years. And a lot of that's understandable. However, it's, I think it's good to start asking those questions again. Because there's a whole plan that's there. I've got an 18-foot long survey map of that whole project that was over 90% complete. It was just cut and fill kinds of things, and some of the drainage issues were the only things that hadn't been totally worked out in some places. But the footprint is there.
What the over 90% complete means in terms of working with the DOT, that means that basically it's usable to go ahead. It's like almost complete. It moves it into a position that's unlike if you've only done part of the planning. We did a huge amount of planning. One of the enormous victories we got in that planning was we got a cookie cutter right-of-way designation for what was going to happen. Right. So one of the reasons that Lincolnville has survived DOT's efforts to reconstruct a Northport-sized road through here is that they never had the right-of-way through here. When I was up visiting the DOT office with one of the former head planners, he pulled me in the back and showed me a map and said in most places in Lincolnville, they only have that much right-of-way beyond the edge of the pavement. They can claim right-of-way for where they're maintaining the gravel shoulders. So they can actually say, well, we can take this amount, but it's nothing compared to the 100-foot right-of-way that they want to have, and nothing compared to the right-of-way that they have through Cameron. That's not the same thing in Cameron as in Lincolnville. So the fact that they were doing these odd right-of-way sizes was huge. I mean, it was like one of the biggest victories you could have. It was one of the hardest things to pull off to anything that we were trying to do. Because it means that in the future, if they don't have the 100-foot right-of-way, they can't automatically come back and build whatever they want in the next go-around. And it's very likely that if we don't, that's one of the reasons why our model plan carries a lot of weight, because it gives the town the chance that in 20, 30 years from now, when our kids are facing this stuff, they can say, hey, look, we got this model plan that's here to covers all these different things that you're saying you want to do now. We've covered it in the future. In other words, this is for the long haul. Because the DOT will likely try to come back and build a higher speed road at some point or other.
Right.
I'm a little rusty at this stuff.
It's okay. And for as many meetings as we all have, I feel like every Monday sometimes feels like, how do we do this again?
And we worked on this for so long, but we've had a nice big pause.
Well, questions from the board?
I'm kind of unclear on what you guys are asking. Are you asking for a town form committee?
No.
Okay, so you're letting us know that you have the people who signed this letter started up on this path.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. Yeah.
Well, historically, back in the around 1986, 87, the DOT started passing out brochures to everybody along Route 1 saying, we're gonna build the Northport size road here, 12-foot travel lanes, 8 to 10-foot shoulders, where one slopes, take the right way, really.
Yeah.
And so it alarmed everybody.
Yeah.
And so we had discussions of property owners and business people along Route 1, and Dr. Ernie Mann suggested we start a committee. And it was a citizens committee, and we worked as a citizens committee for 6 or 7 years, and finally made some headway, and then the town stepped in and created a Route 1 advisory committee.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Other questions? I mean, certainly, you know, it's in all of, you know, our previous interactions and all the conversations we've had, regarding Route 1 and DOT, you know, your passion and commitment for, doing right by the town is clear. And, you know, certainly I think the Board of Selectmen have all of those same intentions of doing the absolute best that we can. And Will, to your point, the rapidly changing dynamics, in our waterfront section of Route 1 is clear. And the Select Board is certainly working diligently on addressing and communicating with the DOT effectively. And so, you know, I think the board will continue to do so for sure, and continue to respond to the rapidly changing environment that is being presented to us with all of these different conversation points. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And I would like to point out that the package includes a letter report, which was not easy. It's tedious as hell to read, not much fun to read, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to recreate divisions, problems of the past. Really, it's not an intention. What's key about that document is that it shows how DOT officials behave throughout our whole greater region, where they will, if they can, they'll get into the city councilors and try to create a division between them and the public planning group. And this has been going on for a really long time now. And yet, in spite of the fact that when we started Gateway, the DOT officials came to us and said, believe us, we've changed. We're not doing it the same way anymore. We call ourselves Maine DOT now, not MDOT. And why that document is helpful, because it points out that the change really hasn't happened as well as anybody would like to see it.
Mm.
It created divisiveness within our town, which is, it makes it hard to do the work when you get that.
Mm. Well, and we certainly appreciate your differentiation of being a citizens group and your continued efforts to do that, to make sure that we avoid any of those sort of misconstruences of who's delivering a message. And it might make sense, and I guess I'll throw it out to the board, would it make sense for us to, seeing as how we're entering into several different conversations with the DOT, whether it's with the ferry and, you know, a few other things, to draft a letter to them just acknowledging the citizens group and acknowledging the work that the select board does, so that there's an understanding of, so that there isn't any conflation of the two things, or I guess I
That
can,
makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree.
yeah. But we certainly, you know, again, I'll just reiterate, you know, your passion is really clear, your commitment to the work is really clear, and so,
And the planning that we did works. When it gets built, it works. We were told over and over again, till you just can't believe how often, it'll never work in Lincolnville Beach, you'll never get traffic to slow down, pedestrians will not be able to cross the road, businesses will not come back again, and when that section was done, all those things did happen. What we got now, though, is we have we were safe for many years with bicyclists in the summer did not use Route 1 coming through 2, 3, 4, 5 at a time. Crazily, it's starting to happen regularly. And it's, I can't even begin to tell you how unsafe it is. And that's one of the things our model plan really goes after is pedestrian bicycle safety.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming out.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And moving along thematically, we have conversation regarding possible ordinance amendments regarding floodplain management and/or land use ordinance, basically within our shoreline zone. And since the recent storm events and flooding, we've had quite a few property owners contact our code enforcement officer. I'm sure you all had conversations with some citizens about the possibility of raising their structures. And in certain circumstances, the code enforcement officer is prohibited by our current land use ordinance from issuing those necessary permits. However, in 2021, the state statute regarding this issue was amended. And so our ordinance is inconsistent now with the state ordinance. So I had a conversation with David about that, and David also contacted Colin Clark, the main DEP shoreline zoning coordinator, regarding any other possible inconsistencies between the state's mandatory shoreline zoning and our land use ordinance. And the other inconsistency that was noted specifically is the requirement that an applicant for a permit for development with the shoreline zone to provide the permitting authority with pre and post-construction photographs. So the long and the short of that is, oh geez, we should be in compliance with what the state is saying, especially if it furthers our citizens' abilities to protect their own properties. Any other questions about that?
Well, it seems reading the document is pretty clear.
Yeah, it's just one of those things like, oh, bookkeeping that we just need to get onto. Yeah. All right, to that end, would someone care to make a motion, please?
I move that the select board instruct the town administrator, code enforcement officer, and town attorney to prepare for board consideration amendments to town ordinances so that the town's ordinance with voter approval will be consistent with the state shoreline zoning requirements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And Karen, do you have an update for us?
I do. Midco Solid Waste Corporation meeting of the Board of Directors has been rescheduled to April 24th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. at the John French Conference Room, Washington Street, King.
Great, okay. Mike, do you have an update for us? And Steve? And I also do not. We have the treasurer and payroll warrants to approve and sign.
I move the board approve and sign the treasurer's and payroll warrants.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And before we adjourn, I just wanted to note that there was one additional possible administrator report item, and in true David Kinney fashion, we're adding another administrator report item later on in the game. He wanted to note that the school committee, or at least most of them, will attend the April 22nd select board meeting to have a conversation with us over the lack of audit and other financial items so that we can they've expressed enthusiasm at having an open dialogue about that and working together. So that will be next time, yeah. And so if there's no other business the board needs to attend to, I will entertain a final motion.
I move that we adjourn.
I second
For
that.
real this time.
Steve, you won't get it other than. Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. Not the shortest.
Nope.
Let me me get the microphones and, here you go.
Do you want me to lock the door?
I think so, yeah,
All right.
cause, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa, good night.
Thanks, Melissa.
So, were you guys able to get outside?
Yes,
To the plan?
yeah, we had a quiet spell, and so we
Perfect.
all went out back.
Yeah.
It got really cold though.
It got cold quick, and then it warmed right back up after it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something 4 degrees in like 10 minutes.
So.
Send this one this way.
Match the monthly checks of AED, fire extinguishers, emergency lighting completed satisfactorily. Is that just here, or does that involve the school as well?
I don't know the answer to that. And that's one of those questions that I brought up at the first presentation of the school committee's budget was, where's school maintenance, where's emergency equipment line items here?
How was the answer to that?
They have always spent out of capital reserve funds for that. There's never been budgeting for that. So